They say that a home is where the heart is, but for me, home was a place where my heart was systematically ripped out of my chest. I remember that day with a clarity that still haunts my dreams. It was a cold Tuesday morning, the kind where the mist clings to the ground like a shroud. I was only 10 years old, standing on the gravel driveway of our suburban house, clutching a small backpack that contained everything I owned. 2 shirts, a pair of worn-out jeans, and a toy soldier with a broken arm. I watched as my mother, the woman who used to sing me to sleep, gently guided my younger brother, Leo, into the car. She didn't look at me. Her focus was entirely on him, shielding his head from the light drizzle as if he were made of glass. Then my father appeared. He was holding my sister Maya's hand. Maya was crying, her small face buried in my father's coat. He wasn't comforting her because of me. He was telling her everything would be okay because she was going with him. "Wait, what about me?" I asked, my voice cracking. The sound was so small against the roar of the car engine. My father stopped at the driver's side door. He looked at me, not with love, not even with anger, but with a cold, calculated indifference that was far more painful. "There isn't enough room, Marcus Steele," he said. "We're starting over. Separate lives. Your mother is taking Leo, I'm taking Maya. We've decided. It's best if you stay at the facility for a while." The facility? The word tasted like copper in my mouth. I knew what it meant. The orphanage. I ran to my mother's window, pounding on the glass. "Mom! Please! I'll be quiet, I won't eat much, I promise." She finally turned her head. Her eyes weren't filled with the tears of a heartbroken mother. They were empty. "It's for the best, son. You were always the difficult one. You're strong. You'll survive." And just like that, the car pulled away. I watched the exhaust smoke disappear into the mist. I stood there until my legs went numb, waiting for the car to turn back. I waited for them to realize they'd forgotten the most important piece of their family. But as the hours passed and the lady from the social services office came to pick me up, I realized the truth. They hadn't forgotten me. They had chosen to discard me. At the orphanage, I was a ghost. I spent my days staring at the gates, watching other parents come and pick up their children. I saw the hugs, the kisses, the promises of a forever home. Every time a car pulled up, my heart would leap into my throat. Is that them? Did Dad change his mind? Did Mom realize she needs me? But the cars always carried strangers. I became the boy who didn't speak. I was shattered into 1,000 pieces, and the adults there didn't have the glue to put me back together. I felt broken, exposed to a world that didn't want me. I was the leftover child. The one who wasn't worth the space in a new life. My mother took my brother because he was her sweet boy. My father took my sister because she was his little princess. I was left because I was a reminder of a marriage that failed, a burden they were too lazy to carry. But as the years crawled by, that sadness started to transform. The tears dried up, and in their place, a cold, hard ember of resolve began to glow. I realized that if I was difficult and strong, then I would become the strongest thing they ever encountered. I stopped looking at the gates for them. I started looking at the gates as the exit to my own future. I studied until my eyes burned. I worked out in the yard until my muscles screamed. I didn't want a family. I wanted a legacy. I wanted to be someone who could never be discarded again. When I turned 18, I walked out of those gates with nothing but a high school diploma and a heart made of granite. I didn't go looking for them. I went to the nearest military recruitment center. I wanted the uniform. I wanted the discipline. I wanted to be part of something where no man is left behind, a concept my parents had never understood. The military didn't care about my feelings. It only cared about my results. And I gave them everything. I pushed myself through the most grueling training programs the Army had to offer. I became a specialist, a leader, a man who survived in environments where most people would crumble. I spent 12 years in the service, rising through the ranks until I earned my commission as a major. I had a new family now, my unit. We bled together, we fought together, and we never left each other. But deep down, in the quiet moments before sleep in a desert tent or a jungle camp, I would still see those taillights. I would still feel the cold gravel under my sneakers. I finally decided it was time to find out what had happened to the people who abandoned me. Not because I missed them, but because I needed to see what they had built on the ruins of my childhood. I hired a private investigator. When the report arrived, it was like a second betrayal, even after all these years. My father had moved to the city and started a high-end real estate firm. He lived in a penthouse. My sister, Maya, was his socialite daughter, spoiled, entitled, and completely dependent on him. She had no idea her perfect life was built on the abandonment of her brother. My mother had moved to a coastal town. My brother, Leo, had grown up to be a shadow of a man. She had smothered him so much that he couldn't hold a job. They were living in a house they couldn't afford, fueled by my mother's obsession with keeping up appearances. The most painful part? They lived only 3 hours away from each other. They had reunions. They had holidays. They had photos on social media of their complete family. In one photo, they were all together, Mom, Dad, Leo, and Maya, toasting to a blessed life. I wasn't in any of the photos. Not even a mention. It was as if I had never existed. I felt a surge of rage that was so intense it felt cinematic. I had spent years in war zones, protecting a country for people like them. People who discarded their own blood for convenience. They were happy. They were successful. And I was just a ghost they had buried in an orphanage. But then I saw the cracks in their world. My father's firm was under investigation for fraud. He was desperate for a major investor to save his reputation. My mother was facing foreclosure on her house because Leo had gambled away her savings. They were desperate. They were vulnerable. Until everything changed. I didn't approach them as a broken son. I approached them as the solution to their problems. I used my military connections and my saved earnings to create a shell company. I made sure my name wasn't on the initial paperwork. I offered my father the investment he needed. I offered my mother a way to keep her house. They were so greedy, so caught up in their own survival, that they didn't even ask who their savior was. They just saw the money. They saw the lifeline. I arranged a meeting. A family celebration, I called it. I told my father I wanted to meet the whole family before we finalized the business deal. He was ecstatic. He called my mother. He called Maya and Leo. He told them a Major General's associate was coming to save their legacy. The day of the meeting, I put on my full dress uniform. Every medal I had earned, the Purple Heart, the Bronze Star, was pinned to my chest. I looked in the mirror and didn't see the boy from the orphanage. I saw a man who had built himself out of the ashes of betrayal. I drove to the expensive restaurant they had chosen. I walked in, my boots clicking rhythmically on the marble floor. I could see them at the large table in the back. They were laughing, drinking expensive wine, acting like the perfect family. My father saw me first. He stood up, a fake, charming smile on his face. Major! Welcome, welcome! We are so honored to have you here. My mother stood up too, smoothing her dress. It's so wonderful to meet the man who is helping us. Leo and Maya looked on with curiosity. They didn't recognize me. To them, I was just a powerful officer in a sharp uniform. I was a stranger. I stood at the head of the table, my face a mask of military discipline. Please sit, I said. My voice was deep, commanding. It was the voice of a man who had led hundreds into battle. They sat, looking at me with expectant, hungry eyes. They wanted the money. They wanted the security. They wanted to keep their fake, beautiful lives intact. I've looked into your history, I began, my voice cold. A very interesting family. Success in real estate. A beautiful daughter. A loyal son. We've been very blessed. My mother chirped, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. Have you? I asked. I leaned forward, the light catching my metals. Because my records show a missing piece. A gap in the timeline. About 20 years ago. The smile on my father's face flickered. I'm not sure what you mean, Major. I mean the gravel driveway, I said. I mean the 10-year-old boy you left behind because there wasn't enough room in the car. The silence that followed was absolute. It was as if the air had been sucked out of the room. My mother's glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the table. The red wine spread across the white tablecloth like a bloodstain. My father's face went from a healthy tan to a ghostly, sickly white. Marcus Steele? Maya whispered, her eyes wide with shock. She looked at me, then at our parents. Major Marcus Steele Miller now, I corrected her. I didn't look at her with hate, but with pity. She had been a child too, but she had grown up in a house of lies. Son! My father started, his voice trembling. We didn't know. We thought you were. We thought the orphanage would give you a better chance than we could at the time. Don't lie, I said, and the power in my voice made him flinch. You didn't think about my chances. You thought about your convenience. You took the ones you liked and threw away the one you didn't. You left me to be raised by strangers, to fight for every meal, to wonder every night why my own blood didn't want me. My mother began to sob, but it wasn't the sound of a mother's regret. It was the sound of a woman who knew her world was about to collapse. We were young. We made a mistake. Please, Marcus Steele, we're family. Family? I stood up, looming over them. You lost the right to use that word the moment you drove away. You didn't come back for me. Not after 1 year. Not after 10. You only care now because I'm the one holding the keys to your future. I pulled a folder from my jacket and tossed it onto the table. The investment? It's gone. I've withdrawn the offer. And the shell company that was helping you? I've turned over all the evidence of your fraud to the authorities, Dad. And Mom, the bank is moving forward with the foreclosure. I bought the debt. I'm the one who owns your house now. Leo looked at me, his eyes glazed with fear. Where are we supposed to go? I looked at him, the brother who got to stay. There's a facility about 3 towns over, I said. A homeless shelter. I've made a donation in your names. They have room for you there. My father stood up, trying to grab my arm. You can't do this. We're your parents. I brushed his hand off as if it were a piece of lint. No. You're just people I used to know. You told me I was difficult and strong. You told me I would survive. Well, you were right. I survived you. I turned to Maya and Leo. You too, you were victims of their selfishness just as much as I was. They turned you into people who can't stand on their own feet. If you want to change, if you want to actually work for a life, call me. But if you stay with them, you'll go down with them. I walked out of that restaurant without looking back. I could hear them calling my name, their voices filled with a desperation they had never felt before. They were exposed. They were destroyed. Their fake empire of cards had finally fallen. But as I stepped out into the night air, I didn't feel the rush of joy I thought I would. I felt something better. I felt weightless. For 20 years, I had carried the burden of their rejection. I had carried the brokenness they had assigned to me. But by facing them, by showing them that I had become a mountain while they had remained pebbles, I finally let it all go. I went back to my base the next day. I returned to my soldiers, to the people who actually understood the meaning of loyalty. I spent my time helping the younger recruits, the ones who came from nothing, showing them that their past doesn't define their rank in life. The moral of my journey is simple, yet it took me a lifetime to learn. Blood makes you related, but loyalty makes you family. Sometimes, the people who are supposed to love you the most are the ones you have to leave behind to find yourself. My parents took my brother and sister and left me in the dark. But they forgot that some things grow better in the dark. I didn't come back for revenge. I came back for justice. And in the end, I found the one thing they could never give me: peace. I am a major. I am a brother. I am a survivor. And I am finally, truly, home. Friends, that was the story of Major Marcus Steele, a reminder that the world may reject you, even your own blood may abandon you, but if your will is made of steel, you can rise from the ashes stronger than ever. If this story touched you, hit like red heart. Tell me in the comments, did Marcus Steele deliver justice, or was he too cold? For more stories of betrayal, revenge, and powerful comebacks, make sure to subscribe bell. Because the next story will be even more shocking. Stay strong. Stay loyal. See you in the next video.